How's it going, y'all? A common argument you're going to hear, in fact, the most common argument you hear from gun controllers, gun sense people, people who want sensible gun laws is it's common sense. Or at least to them, I guess. To those of us with the facts, it's common sense until you have some facts. And moreover, if it was really common sense, would you have to keep on telling us it's common sense? So, I decided I'm going to do a video on this, and I'm probably going to do future videos based on future incidences, future statements, and so on. But I want to cover a few arguments I've seen here recently and over the years in this episode. So, let's get started. This is a common one you hear from gun controllers, the gun sense crowd, and everything like that, when it comes to explaining why places like Chicago, Baltimore, and D.C. have all this violence despite their lax gun laws. Obama came out and said the reason why Chicago had so much gun violence a while back was because criminals just went to Gary, Indiana to purchase their guns from there. Because in Illinois, you have to have an FOID card to purchase a firearm or ammunition. Private transfers in Illinois are not legal. So, Barack Obama makes the claim that you can go to a gun show in Gary, Indiana and purchase a firearm there and ammunition there. However, there are some facts you have to ignore if the statement's to make sense to you. Well, first off, in all 50 states, you cannot sell a handgun to somebody outside their state of residence. Doesn't matter if I'm a private citizen in Indiana. It doesn't matter if I'm an FFL in Indiana. I cannot sell a handgun to an Illinois resident if I was an Indiana resident or an Indiana FFL. Just not legal. Now you can say, well, they go to a gun show in Indiana and just buy from a private seller because they don't need ID. But again, you have to ignore a few facts there. If you've never sold a firearm privately, then you probably don't know. Well, you may not know that, guess what? The law states, yes, a private citizen in the state where it's legal, in most states it is legal, can sell a firearm to somebody provided they don't know or should not have known that this person is prohibited to accept the firearm. Okay. So, we already know it's against federal law to sell a handgun to somebody outside the state of residence, and in the case of Illinois and other such cases, such as the state of New York, California, stuff like that, you can't even sell a long gun to them outside their state of residence in most cases. Some states like, if you're a Texas resident, you can buy a long gun in Mississippi from an FFL. That's legal, but you still can't buy a handgun as a Texas resident in Mississippi. So, as you can tell, say Pete here has this PTR-91 PTW, which is classed as a handgun, right? He decides he's tired of it. He's an Indiana resident. There's a gun show coming up in Gary, Indiana. He wants to get a little extra cash so he can buy another gun he's always wanted, right? So, he goes, has his booth set up. This is one of the guns he wants to sell. Well, somebody comes walking up wanting to purchase this particular model from him. Now, technically, Pete could sell without an ID. But there are problems that run into it. So let's say Pete chooses to go down the path of selling this person this PTR 91 PDW without even looking at their ID. Well, a few months later, it turns up in a drive-by shooting in Chicago. Police are going to look at the serial number. They're going to run the serial number. They see the last 4473 form filled out for this was at a gun shop in Gary, Indiana, to Pete. They go ask Pete about the incident. They determine, okay, well, maybe Pete wasn't the one who committed this drive-by shooting. But they ask Pete, okay, so what happened to the gun? Well, I sold it at a gun show in Gary, Indiana. Well, Pete, who did you sell it to? Well, I don't know. I didn't check their ID. So, Pete, how do you know you didn't sell it to somebody under the age of 21? You do know they have to be 21 to purchase a pistol, right? Oh, well, how did you know that they were an Indiana resident? You know it's illegal to sell to an Illinois resident, right? So you see where this comes up. You see where the issues come up. Same case with Baltimore. And Maryland has some gun laws that are more draconian than a lot of the ones that the gun controllers, the gun sense people, want to push nationwide at the moment. So, I mean, you really can't say that somebody, in Baltimore can just go outside Baltimore and purchase a gun and then, come back into Baltimore and commit the crime, if they're a prohibited person already. Because Maryland already has those stringent gun laws. And with D.C., the common argument is that they just go to Arlington, Virginia, which, again, like with the case of Chicago and Gary, Indiana, when you're going from D.C. into Virginia, it's like going into a different state. D.C. is not considered part of Virginia. Virginia is not part of D.C. So there are a lot of facts you have to ignore with this. Just plain and simple. And then the other question I can't seem to get a straight answer out of the gun controllers on this anyway is, okay, if it's the draconian, if it's the lax gun laws in outside areas that are making D.C. so violent, Chicago so violent, Baltimore so violent, why don't we see these violence problems in, say, Arlington, Virginia, right beside D.C., where they do have lax gun laws? I mean, if it's the lax gun laws that are causing this problem, I can never seem to get a straight answer out of that. So, again, you have to ignore that little fact, too, before this starts to make sense to you. All right, so, next topic. Okay, so by now everyone's heard of Betsy riots. The crowd of gun controllers that think it's okay to go around vandalizing things. And eventually the police decided they were going to start looking in and investigating some of their crimes. And I want to bring to your attention a tweet that really caught my eye. And this has been responded to so many times. This base argument's been responded to so many times. It's not even funny. It's almost pointless for me to explain this now, but I'm going to do this anyway. The mere act of me owning this AR-15 here in Texas, there is no definable crime, there is no definable damages, there are no definable victims. I'll go a step further. If I was to go into California with this, even though it is illegal, there's still no definable victim or damages. The only crime that's been committed is I violated a state gun law. I'll take it even a step further. If I was to take this PTR 91 PDW, which is classified as a pistol, and slap a stock on it, which would then make it an SBR, and I did it without going through the NFA Title II process, that would be illegal under federal law. It would carry a 5-year prison sentence if convicted. But there is still no definable victim and no definable damages. And yes, in either circumstance, if I was to break the law there and got caught, there would be penalties. The police in this circumstance that I carried my AR-15 with me into California would prosecute that. And then you've got the BATFE. If they caught me slapping a stock on this without going through the proper NFA Title II process, well, they would also prosecute. When you're going around vandalizing other people's property, however, there is a definable crime, vandalism. There is a definable victim, the property owner. There is a definable damage. You defaced their property. You defaced something that they paid for, built, set up, etc., etc. You defaced something that was not yours to deface. You guys understand the differences here now. And no, me having all these guns, anybody else having all these guns, doesn't put blood on our hands. Me advocating for them to remain legal, hell, me advocating to repeal some of the other gun restrictions we've got on our books does not put blood on my hands. Sorry, it just doesn't work that way. On to the next topic. Again, campus carry. You've got to ignore a lot of facts before prohibition on campus carry makes any sense to you at all. You've got to ignore the fact that what they're talking about with campus carry, what the law on campus carry would be allowing CHL holders, law-abiding gun owners that have CHLs, to carry on campus. That's what campus carry is in a nutshell. So when you talk about your drunk 19-year-old daughter in a college bar, off campus, carrying a gun, well, that's simply not grounded in reality now, is it? So, I mean, if you have some facts there, well, that argument just simply doesn't make any sense anymore. And the other fact you have to ignore: how well did prohibiting CHL holders from carrying on campus work when it came to, say, stopping Cho, the Virginia Tech shooter? Did that law prohibiting all faculty and students from carrying despite having a CHL, did that prevent Cho at all? Did that slow him down in any way, shape, or form? Hell, what about even at the elementary school in Sandy Hook? Did that prevent Adam Lanza from carrying on campus? What about Columbine High School? The fact that Columbine High School, you're prohibited from carrying a gun on there if you're a CHL holder. Did that stop Bolden Harris? Did it? Didn't look to me it did too good of a job of doing that. Did it stop Elliot Rodger? Did it slow him down at all? Didn't look to me like it did. In fact, the only people I think it slowed down are the very people with CHLs who would have been legally carrying on campus and who had a shot at protecting themselves and everyone else around them. I mean, you got to think about it. If the only thing you've got to lose is your body count, you think prohibiting carrying a gun on campus is going to stop you from carrying a gun on campus? I mean, we got to think here a little bit. You know, murder's already illegal. And obviously, you going out to do these mass killings, your only goal is to rack up a body count. Whereas if you're a law-abiding citizen who has plans for the future, who is playing for keeps, who has that firearm simply to protect themselves so, they can go on and continue their life on in the future and continue their plans for the future on and not have that cut short, well, that prohibition might just very well stop you. Because, let's face it, in order to protect yourself on that one, you don't know when somebody like Chow is going to strike. To have the best chance of protecting yourself, you'd have to be carrying it as much as possible. Now, all that has to happen for you to ruin your life is to get caught violating that gun law just one time. So you see how this doesn't work out in your favor if you're somebody who has plans for the future, who wants to be a law-abiding citizen, who wants to lead a good life, whereas it doesn't do anything to deter the person who's planned out the mass shooting, who wants to rack up a body count. All they got to do is just get away with that one time. All they've got to do is get their guns through campus one time. You see how this works, right? So you see, there's a lot of fact you have to ignore before opposing campus carry makes perfect sense to you. All right? And here, not only do you have to ignore facts, but you have to make stuff up before this becomes common sense to you. You see, the fact of the matter is that everything gun rights advocates have had to say hadn't had anything to do with any sort of identity politics at all, whether or not you're a woman, LGBTQ, black, whatever. We consider the right to own and carry a firearm to be universal. So, how you come to that conclusion that we somehow hate women, blacks, LGBTQ over this is beyond me. In fact, you actually have to make stuff up. In fact, this seems more as if it's a smear campaign more than anything else. I mean, think about this a second here. Why did we jump to the side of Amanda Collins in her situation? Why did we jump to the side of Carol Bone in her situation if we hate women so much? Why are we supporting McDonald? Why are we supporting people like Coley on the War? Why is Coley on the War a commentator for the NRA if we're so racist and we so hate blacks that much? I mean, why did several concealed handgun constructors give free classes to the LGBTQ community for concealed handguns? I mean, shoot, hell, I wish I could get a free concealed handgun class, when it comes time to renew my license, for being a white, straight male. But I don't get offered that. Still, I mean, if we really were as bigoted as you guys say we were, or are, then why are we doing all that stuff? Why didn't we just come out and say, well, we want gun rights for the straight, white, cis, het male, and that's it? Come on now, guys. Get back with the reality here. Use your brains. Think about this here a second. Just apply some of this common sense here. Shoot. Alright, well, I think that's about enough on this one here. Y'all take it easy now. Have a great day.